So I'll go through a number of projects and I'll not really be able to, nor do I want to now explain what the projects are about. I will look for the urban component, how each architectural project, no matter what the scale or the brief, can actually, in my practice, how I'm looking for always that it creates part of the city, how any project, architectural project has this component in which it has to do something to the larger world outside its boundaries. So the presentation will be presentation will be cryptic because it will not be obvious what the whole project is about. But I hope to come to be more focused on what the conference is about. So. With having in mind that really is about Dallas and about how the city of Dallas make itself into a better city, and none of these projects are for the Dallas, and because none of them were made in Dallas. But the idea is that one is reading the context and situation and finds those needs and opportunities and everything. Great strategies today, and actually makes a different project for particular situations. So this kind of applicability is not fully transferable, but as a whole, it becomes like a set of samples or strategies that like a toolbox. So the first strategy here is that when the building that has straight boundaries or even very private brief like a house or any other building, through its openings, doors and windows, it connects the city and the interior of the building. That way the city is enlarged and the building is a part of the city. Here showing how in the urban neighborhood that the building pokes out behind the old one is showing its interior and its presence. So when one walks down, one feels that interior almost becomes part of the city mental space. Including the doors, how they relate to the city, you feel that the city and the building are in a I don't want to say a relationship because it's not clear what kind of relationships, but they are one. Or parts of the best parts of the buildings and how they present themselves to the city and what it does to the city and to the person on the street. And what it does to the person inside the building, which looked relatively opaque or private, but and how inhabitants or users, whatever the brief is, how they have this understanding of the life outside on the street, how they are in the same time kind of surveillance for the city, how they participate in it, and how their mind frame is different than if they're inside a very closed building. The same thing like in which people that walk down the streets are in a continuous daily relationship with the people inside the building. Again, this surveillance thing and being part of the best parts of the building, being also the best parts of the mental city space. The other way around. Or like, for example, a room that is actually critical to being able to survey backyards. So it's like contributing to the neighborhood watch and the neighborhood connections. And the second strategy would be when the building is created for being together, because buildings could do that. I'm a great believer in architecture that it could do everything. So the buildings could actually make you want, in a better or worse way, to be with other people, and that is very important when it's a question of different people, different classes, different races, etc. So in this particular project, the top is the rich man's penthouse, then there are condominiums, and then there are retail spaces. These people don't necessarily want to be living together, so what could architecture do about it? So here the strategy is that you're almost glad. You're fine where you are. That's the general strategy that goes through all my work. You're fine where you are, but actually you are glad to see another human being on the site or somewhere down there, like you are just walking out of your powder room in this situation. You see the person downstairs waiting for the elevator, and you're fine, you're glad. It's kind of the gladness of togetherness that is actually created through seeing a person in the apartment underneath, making the building better than if you're just on your own in this world of a marvel and dream penthouse. And these things are actually architectural projects in terms that it takes attention or desire to make it so. Or where the balconies, the Richmond balcony, terrace, roof garden, and the balconies underneath have some kind of connection again that is not demeaning or exploitative, but is mutually beneficial. Then there is a third strategy. These numbers are obviously just random for the sake of organizing the talk, but creating buildings that are very efficient, energy efficient, and this particular one is for very cold climates and dry and hot, humid summers. That's the Chicago climate. So it is a precedent. It was used as a precedent to inspire people. It's a very kind of old project. Precedent to inspire people to do it because the language and the architecture kind of looks acceptable and it looks actually inviting. And the other urban strategy is that, again, the best part of the house, which is this interior courtyard, is through the dining terrace, which you see underneath that main volume, is kind of transparent. So the street people can both talk to people and the other way around, and they could see the glimpses of the best part of the yard, while at the same time being protected. The same building showing in the summertime, where in this climate it is the best strategies are, and actually exploration of all this is work done with engineers, and it's a totally different kind of subject, but it requires research and exploration in a summertime when it's shaded because the sun is up, right? And in the wintertime when the interior is lit up, so you get the greenhouse effect because the sun gets trapped inside, and the building is concrete inside, so it holds the heat, which is desirable in those kind of climates, which heat more than cool. Then this is a totally self-initiated project. I had an idea that only like 6 changes to the zoning code need to be made to Chicago. Only a couple of words exchanged here or there. So we did this project without being commissioned to just provoke the argument. And this changes you see from on the left-hand side is what the code asks for now and what's actually built every day now. And then the one code is that not to require, not to demand, but to strike out that there has to be these side yards, which are very important and very poor spaces in Chicago. Then there is another thing was that the secondary stair could be as part of the interior, which is then the dark part of the interior. Then it was that the backyard has to be 20 feet deeper, which is now not a problem because the same footprint is, so it's good for owners and developers. They just get the same footprint. And then you even shorten to the traditional, what it used to be front yard, which was for some reason enlarged by code without really understanding the consequences, so that the building could be larger and could get a courtyard. So different typologies could develop in Chicago, but now all Chicago looks the same because the building, people just pack their stuff inside a very tight volume. Then what are the consequences of it, and how, if you have it, also there are lots of tearing down of social housing and then mixed housing and how it could be mixed. Then there are these recommendations for the building height and what is how very small change results in much better situations, and then list of benefits. Less heat loss, big issue in Chicago. Buildings heat each other like in most of the other cities around the world. No, this is not a precedent, really. It's just something that would need to be possibly adopted if the market so desires, because code doesn't prevent it. Better garden, better air, better light, because before you got light, better views. Trees are in better positions there for the shading, which is important for the heat, easy ventilation. All the things that in Chicago present key things, strategic things for sustainability. Better fire spread escape, less deconstruction of structures, therefore more durable buildings, less of the theft, better surveillance, less of the theft entrances, rat problem easier to control, some kind of simulation of what it would look like. If it's a wider building, then insides are easier to organize properly. Some simulations of what into different buildings could be. Big single-family houses or condominiums or affordable single-family houses and sustainable strategies. So then the fifth one is in ground. How am I doing with time? I think badly, right? 10 minutes, I had to run. So the ground and how the ground is the surface of the city, and this one is a project for Croatia, and how different levels that actually are part of the top of the garage, on underpasses under the street, create a certain richness to the city, or there is the underpass that's in the same time, or then the roof and what happens below the roof, and other urban surfaces. A project that require a different, very nice brief, like sports hall and doctors and community center and restaurant and cafe shop. And then, because they have all different demands for the height, so the roofing is inclined. And in that part of the city, it's snowing for 3 months and people are avid skiers. So this could be like afternoon skiing for the little ones. Or it could be surface, so it could be open air cinema. This is part of kind of band, social space. Then there's the destination and visibility. Lots of destinations you need to know, and sometimes you don't want because it's exclusive. In this case, to create better cities, if you provide this was actually for disabled people, all kinds of programs. And it explains how you actually, by doing this large they all get their faces, the urban faces. At the same time, there is this large urban square, which is unique. It's a very large square for any city, at least the European city. And then how there are these programs that are destination programs, inserted a little gallery, a little theater. So people go there for different reasons, not only because they are connected with disabled people. So in a hot and humid climates like here, which is to me very interesting because it applies, but it doesn't apply culturally. So in here, one would have to be actually culturally looking what needs to be done rather than just transferring these technologies. This is in Kuala Lumpur for a wealthy owner, but with a very modest 2,500 square feet, 3 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms. In which life inside out suits their lifestyle. After our research, I'm pretty sure that that's so. The project won prize, I assume that is so. The bedroom, which you have 3 ways to ventilate yourself. The woodwork is very available to them because they have good artisans and good wood. The analysis of the climate always important because this kind of data available on the website is available then to everybody. the wind things, the humidity levels, the micro winds, the general wind ventilation strategies, so how to accelerate the wind and push it into the building to ventilate the building. Another project for the same client, the same kind of circumstances. Use of their 2,000 species of climbers, flowering climates, to shade. The strategies. This is a very fascinating diagram I want to share with you. Like in the climate like we have here, or in Kuala Lumpur, we have the shade and air movement is much more important than what you are wearing, or temperature. So optimized buildings that are making like an engine, which are really thought through in every respect of how to do it. In this particular case, the outside space is important because it wants to be used, but if it's hot and humid, people will not use it. So how does the building create, through this large roof, through this shading, creates the air movement on the ground floor? In this particular situation, the wind blows morning from one side, evening from another, or night, day. So if it blows, there are these channels that are channeled, which developed with best engineers in the world. And they go through these channels and ventilate the interior spaces and exterior spaces all at the same time. The roof structure from one side, from another side. To avoid stale air, the comfort is much greater. Much, much greater. This is the climates where we have a humid parts. Some of them are like humid all the time, and hot humid all the time, and some of them are mixed. Construction, like this building was then designed from bamboo because it's a good material to develop there. And there are no bamboo buildings, so it was used as the example to try to stimulate that structure if it's developed. Looking at examples. Historical influences for that particular project, there is always a massive amount of material to find to build better cities. This shows how this roof came as an inverted, you kind of pull it down and you kind of really look at historical things and why and how. Then this is a purely, this is actually Rogers Park in Chicago, which we believe is the most diverse neighborhood. People speak 80 languages there, apparently. Wikipedia says so. Wikipedia says 80 languages. But when you walk around there, you see like not a single face looks alike. So taking advantage of their ability to use the street life of desire, creating these huge sidewalks, because there's lots of people living outside and wanting to live outside. Creating buildings that facilitate public transportation, coherent building with all the programs next to public transportation to facilitate that from childcare onwards. Super wide, 70 feet wide sidewalks on each side. The general strategy of they have the fantastic beach, that's the reason why the neighborhood's so good, and then giving them another public space, that's that street. And then at the top part there, you see Rogers Park giving them their insurance because they're very afraid that they will get that their beach would be bulldozed and that the Lakeshore Drive will continue, which is the main street along the Michigan Lake, and that they will lose the best asset in their community. So we are proposing tunnel, which is like a relief because there is a solution now that's cheaper and that's more likely to happen than new extended Lakeshore Drive. The edge of the cities, like on the green belt. This is social housing for Croatia, 80 apartments, low income, in which these buildings are placed, but the landscape is rolling, and it's two-sided, so you have and the building simulates the landscape. We don't have that kind of landscape here, as far as I'm aware. And this, the whole site is kind of connected because the buildings are above ground. And the views of both the green part and, in this case, the sea, but that would be otherwise it would be the city. No? And Tower and Energy is a large project, perfect timing. it's just a project that explores how the tower could harness energy, and that would be through this heliostatic PV panels that are rotating. So it's like this kind of very cosmo-bio building that in the same time shades the building, and if it shades the building, then it doesn't overheat the building, because that's the basic principle. It's very alive. And so the idea is that this is just like an example that one could keep going, right? Thank you.